Hey everyone, as a follow-up from my previous mainline rankings video, here is my personal list for the Pokémon spin-off games available for the Switch. Stick around to the end to find out what I consider to be number 1. Starting off is Pokémon Quest. This is a free-to-play adventure type game that was also released for mobile devices. This has an interesting art style that is similar to something like Minecraft. The aim of the game is to build a team of Pokémon and explore Tumblecube Island, building your own base camp, battling Pokémon and completing challenges along the way. While this could be considered a nice and easy entry point to the Pokémon series for some, this is a style of game that fits better for mobile as opposed to console, to be honest. Even though it's free, the gameplay is not all that engaging. It's amusing for a while, but it wasn't really my thing. Coming up next is Pokémon Cafe Remix, another free-to-play game that's also available for mobile. This game sees you as the owner of a cafe in the world of Pokémon. It's a nice looking puzzle game that sees you take orders and accomplish tasks, whilst adding more Pokémon to your staff and upgrading your cafe. The game isn't all that challenging though, and lacks any kind of depth for long-term playing. The touchscreen only controls for the Switch doesn't really help either, but definitely fits into that more cozy style gameplay curled up on the sofa. I will say though that the graphics and art style look very nice and probably the strongest thing going for this game. Oh, and it's free. Detective Pikachu. The original 3DS game was pretty good and was great to hear there would be a Switch game coming out after the movie. The game's titular character was back along with Tim Goodman solving a series of cases in Rhyme City. Though entertaining, the game sadly felt like it was lacking something. It didn't feel like there was enough challenge and was almost too simplistic by previous standards. Luckily, the game has plenty of great characters and a charming story, so it helps make up for it. Sort of. In all honesty, it's a decent enough game that could have been so much more. Next up, it's Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. This is a remake of the GBA's Mystery Dungeon with some additional new features and definitely brings some nostalgia to me personally. This is a dungeon crawling game where you play a human who has been turned into a Pokémon, taking on missions to deliver items and rescue other Pokémon. This version has an art style which is very nice looking and the gameplay is great too, although many would consider it a little dated for this type of game. I would say if you've never played any of the series before, I would definitely try out the demo to get an idea about what the series is all about. At number 3, I have chosen Pokémon Unite, the third and final free-to-play mobile game on my list. This is Pokémon's first attempt at a MOBA game and it isn't too bad, to be honest. Taking inspiration from games in a successful genre, 2 teams of Pokémon compete against each other on the battlefield to earn victory. It plays well, looks very nice, and bizarrely, Pokémon oddly suits this sort of game. However, this is one of those games that has microtransactions and can feel a little bit intrusive sometimes. If you don't mind sticking to just free-to-play and if you like MOBAs, this is a pretty good gaming experience and definitely worth trying out. And at number 2, I have chosen Pokémon Tournament DX. This is an upgrade of the original game released from the arcade and Wii U. This game is cool. It's basically Pokémon crossed with Tekken and definitely one of the better spin-offs Pokémon has done, not just for the Switch but all round. It looks great and plays great. You're practically controlling the Pokémon as if they were in a real battle. Nothing too difficult for newcomers to fighting games and pretty good for fighting fans as well. It has a decent selection of Pokémon you can use to fight with and overall the presentation is very nice. Most definitely worth checking out for any Pokémon or fighting fans. I was really close to putting Pokémon at the top of my list for these spin-offs to be honest, but I think that spot can only go to one game, New Pokémon Snap, the long-awaited sequel to arguably one of the greatest Pokémon games of all time. The aim of the game is to travel through the wilderness on a mini-rail and capture photographs of Pokémon in their natural habitat. Improving on what had come before, this game is an absolute pleasure to play and feels like a more fleshed out version of the original. It has a decent story happening within the game with some pacing issues here and there, but nothing really to write home about. Definitely one of the better looking Pokémon games and runs nicely, due to the smaller maps in comparison to say one of the more recent mainline games, but still good looking nonetheless. Do I think it's better than the original? Absolutely, but that's not to take anything away from the original as without it, this sequel may never have been. So that's my thoughts on the Pokémon spin-off games on Switch. What are your thoughts on these titles? How would you rank them? Let me know in the comments. But for now, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more, be sure to like, subscribe and all that stuff. Please check out my other content too and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.